and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Today, I'll be reacting to week 4 of the 2025 college football season. It's become clear now that Clemson is a terrible team. They're not making the ACC championship or the college football playoff, and probably not even making it to a bowl game because they lost to Syracuse. 34-21 at home. It wasn't even close. And Syracuse, I still don't think is a great team. And they were playing a backup quarterback in a lot of that game. Dabo Sweeney, I don't think should be fired after one bad season because of all the good years he's had at Clemson, but he's going to be under a lot of pressure going into next season. It became clear yesterday too that Indiana has not dropped off at all. Like I thought, last year was not a fluke, and Kirk Cincinnati really is a great coach, and he's turned their program around. And maybe Illinois has dropped off a lot, but Indiana, I do not think would have beat them 63-10 if they weren't a really good team. Because Illinois is not terrible. It reminds me a lot of when Indiana beat Nebraska last year by a similar score, and it became clear after that that they're a really good team. I watched that game last night until it got out of hand. But Fernando Mendoza, it became clear in this game that he's not a downgrade from Curtis Rourke. He might even be a slight upgrade. He was great in the Illinois game, completing 21 of 23 passes for 267 and 5 touchdowns. Indiana's offensive line, I thought in the preseason, would be good because it's one of the most experienced offensive lines in the country, and it sure is good. They dominated Illinois. And Illinois' elite pass rusher, Gabe Jacobs, Indiana took him out of the game. And Indiana's defensive line is really good too. They dominated an Illinois offensive line that is even more experienced than Indiana's is. That they held Illinois to just 2 yards rushing. And of course, to hold anybody to just 2 yards rushing is really good, but especially to hold Brett Bielema team to that. Indiana's a wide receiver combination of Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper is one of the best in the country. It seems that they both played great in this game. Surratt had 9 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Cooper had 6 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. Indiana, it looks like, again, has one of the best offenses and defenses in the country. But I still don't see Indiana as a contender to win the Big Ten. I think they've got a chance to get a playoff spot again, but I'm still pretty sure that they're going to lose to both Oregon and Penn State. But Illinois, I'm glad now that I didn't pick them to make the college football playoff in the preseason because obviously now, after the way they played against Indiana, they have no chance of beating Ohio State. So they'd have to get to 10-2 to have a chance, and that will be 2 losses. And they're no doubt going to at least lose one more game than that, probably more. So I watched part of the Oklahoma-Auburn game, and it went about how I expected it to go, not just with the amount Oklahoma won by, but by the final score of it too. So it's too early to say still who has the best defense in the SEC, but there's a good chance it is Oklahoma. They set a school record for sacks in that game with 10 sacks.
I Tigers al quarto e 29. Lanciamo un Ave Maria a Cam Coleman. Va in end zone.
Oklahoma's defensive line looks a lot like Ole Miss from last year. And Oklahoma didn't play great offensively in this game, but Auburn, I think, has a good defense too. And Auburn, I still think, is a pretty good team. Cam Coleman is one of the best receivers in the country, and I still think they're going to win 8 or 9 games. So that's why I think this was a pretty good win for Oklahoma. And I've got a feeling that Oklahoma is going to beat Texas this year because Auburn, I think, might have a better offensive line than Texas does. Auburn, I know, has one of the better offensive lines in the country that Oklahoma just dominated very much. Auburn, I know, has a much more experienced offensive line than Texas does. And if Oklahoma wins the Texas game, they're very likely going to the college football playoff. So Texas Tech was very impressive against Utah. I watched most of that game. They were able to pull away late and blow out Utah on the road at 34-10. So it looks like I was right about Texas Tech being a top 10 team this year. Now, of course, it's too early to say that for sure. But they did have 14 penalties in this game, which is something they need to get fixed. But Texas Tech's team seems a lot different than usual. They've usually been able to throw well and score a lot of points, but they've never really had a good defense. Their defense has really always been bad, and this year it looks like they've got a top 10 defense. The defensive line being the best part, like I thought it would be in the preseason. Texas Tech's defensive line dominated the Utah offensive line that I thought in the preseason would be the best offensive line in the Big 12. And even if it's not, Utah always has a good offensive line. So a great performance by Texas Tech. Them and Oklahoma might have the two best defensive lines in the country. And Texas Tech's offensive line dominated the Utah defensive line too. It's rare to see Utah get dominated up front, and it's rare to see Texas Tech dominate anybody up front except for the little teams. And Utah, I still think, has a top 20 defense, and I still think they're a decent team, maybe even a top 25 team. I just think Texas Tech's that good. And I'm very pleased with the way Ole Miss played. It really couldn't have went much better for them, winning 45-10, a dominant win over a Tulane team that is not terrible. If Tulane was in the Power Four this year, I'd say they'd be about an average team. So I did wonder if Trinidad Chambliss were to start in this game, if the Arkansas game was kind of a fluke and he would possibly take a step back in this one. But that's clearly not the case. He was just as good against Tulane as he was against Arkansas. He was amazing in this game, throwing for 307 and 2 touchdowns and also rushing for 112 yards. on 14 carries, averaging 8 yards per carry.
Not a great tackling team. Not a good one.
Bouncing it to the outside this time. Nice run by Chambliss. Keeps it himself. Chambliss all the way.
The Ole Miss offensive line also seems to be a little bit better than it was last year. But if Chambliss does even close to what he's done in these last two games against LSU next week, even when Simmons gets healthy, I don't see any chance that Chambliss gets taken out. Chambliss has been playing so well that if he had been the starter at the beginning of the season, he might have won the Heisman Trophy. And my only concern in this game defensively for Ole Miss was really Retzloff being able to run. And he did get a few good runs in this game, but overall, his legs weren't really much of a problem for Ole Miss, and they shut down two lanes passing. Their defense played better this week, clearly, than it did the week before against Arkansas. So I will wait until the LSU game before I say if Ole Miss is a real contender to win an SEC championship or not, because they disappointed me last year. But if they do beat LSU, I'm going to say Ole Miss is a contender to win the SEC. So I saw most of the fourth quarter of the Miami-Florida game where Miami pulled away and ended up winning pretty big, 26-7. So Florida surprisingly has a pretty good defense this year, it seems like. The problem is they've also got one of the worst offenses in the country and one of the worst quarterbacks that I've seen in my nearly decade and a half of watching college football, DJ Way. And Florida is going to have to fire Billy Napier. I saw as of right now he still has a job, but that's not going to last much longer. And it's not that I really want to see someone get fired. It's that if Florida is wanting to get back to being good again, then it's not going to be able to be with Billy Napier because he's just not a very good football coach. And I saw the Woo Pig Suey Dummies took another L, this time it being to Memphis. So Memphis, since the preseason, I've considered to be a contender to get the group of five playoff spot. But after this week, Memphis, I think, would have to be one of the top three possibilities with South Florida and Tulane to get the group of five playoff spot. Because I know Arkansas is a terrible team, like they usually are, but they are still an SEC team. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.